First of all, thanks everybody for joining us this evening. My name is Evan Jones. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Digital at Fender. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight with this esteemed panel of experts who know a lot more about what's going on from a TikTok and music standpoint than I do. But part of my job is, at Fender, what we focus on is really amplifying and elevating the voices of artists and creators around the world. And I think what's exciting for us is guitar, much like music, has never been more youthful, more diverse, more energetic than it is today. And I think back to where some folks were talking about where guitar was in the context of classic rock and kind of older expressive forms of music. And I think the really exciting thing for us is the way that artists are using guitars and basses and pedals and effects and amplifiers has never been more interesting and exciting. And I think TikTok clearly has become a really important platform for artists in that respect. Something else for us is, we believe in meeting players and creators and artists where they are. And obviously, all you have to do is look at what's on TikTok today. You'll see something like this. I think Guitar Talk alone, with something close to 5 billion views in and of itself, I think is a real testament to just how popular the platform is. And I'll just kind of, before I hand it off to Clara, I'll just kind of share one thought, which is Leo Fender back in 1946 started Fender. 1951 launched the first Telecaster. And he said something to his second wife just before he passed, which was that he believed that artists were angels and it was his job to give them wings. And this is from a radio transistor builder in Southern California, and well before Red Bull even existed. So we've definitely taken that to heart. That is, what'd you say? Good marketing joke. Well, I've got a few. Actually, 3. I've got 2 to go. But we take that to heart, and it very much inspires and informs how we operate. And it's exciting to see, for us that TikTok is just part of that, but also being able to be in the presence of these incredible artists, as well as the people that support them and work with them, is a real pleasure for us too. So with that, I will hand it over to Clara.
Thank you, Evan, and thank you for bringing us back all the way to the beginning. We love a story that pulls on the heartstrings. So we're gonna start with some intros. I'm J. Clara Chan. I cover digital media at The Hollywood Reporter, and I will be your moderator for this evening.
Hey everyone, I'm William Gruger. I head up editorial programming and curation for TikTok on the music team.
Hi, I'm April Kay. I'm a bass player. I'm also a content creator and activist.
Hey, I'm Blue the Tiger. I'm an artist, musician, bass player, songwriter, producer.
I'm Adam Hirsch. I manage Blue along with Benito and Hunter as well. We have the company Alt Vision. We also have a record label with Sony.
I'm Benito Lugo, and he explained everything. So nothing to say.
All right, so let's start. I wanted to bring it sort of to the musician's point of view first. Obviously, there are a lot of social platforms out there. Musicians have been using a lot of different ones in the past recent years to get their music out, to connect with fans and whatnot. And I'm curious for you, April and Blue specifically, why were you both drawn to TikTok? Why did you feel like this was the right place to share some of your music?
Yeah, I mean, my journey started right before the pandemic, and I think TikTok was still kind of new at that point. But I'd been posting like a few videos here and there on Instagram of just like me playing bass to, cover songs and just like showing what I was working on. And any song that I was like practicing a lot, I would just kind of like post it on Instagram, and I feel like people really liked those videos. I don't know, people seemed to like engage with them on my Instagram accounts. And when TikTok came along, and everyone was like, "Gotta get on TikTok, you gotta get on TikTok." I was like, okay, why don't I just like post me, playing bass, which is like my passion. And I did that, and it kind of like blew up. Like my first video got a bunch of engagement, and yeah, I kind of went from there. And I think then I kind of like crafted my journey on there from like just playing covers of songs on bass, and that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, definitely similarly sort of came upon TikTok through the lens of creativity and wanting to express myself. I grew up in Austin, Texas, so it's a big music town, and as I mentioned, I'm an activist. I've been doing that work since I was a kid. I would play benefit concerts and organize events like that with other kids so I can play my music and bring people together, and like what better of a platform, right, than TikTok. And so I moved to New York about 7 years ago now for a job in finance, which might seem pretty weird considering like creativity and community. I did quit that job after 3 months and then focused on a job in nonprofit working in marketing and communications. And continuing to play bass. And I continued to play shows, work with bands, record, release music with my sister. And then about a year ago, it was the heat of the pandemic, and I was pretty broke, pretty upset, but ready to release some music with my sister. And so I was like, how do I show my Instagram community that I do music? Because I'd kind of built up a bit of a community, like 50,000 on social. And it was to play bass, because that's where I got started. I play bass since I was 12, and it's where my heart is. So I shared that on Instagram and TikTok. And it was probably one of my first ever TikTok posts. And it was because I knew that was the place to go to reach the broadest, most targeted group of people, because TikTok is so good about finding the people who need what you're putting out there. And that first video, similar to the Blue story, got like 1 million views, and the story kind of went from there. But for me, it's always been about bringing people together around something bigger and doing that through music, which is something I really love.
It seems like nowadays TikTok, if you hit 1 million, that's just the standard. That means you're just getting started. William, from your perspective, I'm curious, because we talk about videos going viral on TikTok a lot. What makes a music video in particular, what makes music content perform well on the platform?
Sure. Before I go into this question, could we play the video about your TikTok chakra, if you will, to sort of set the tone here, I think.
Once your TikTok chakra opens, you see the world completely differently, because suddenly you're seeing everything and you're noticing what would be funny on TikTok. It's a language on TikTok. And my chakra's open now.
Thank you.
So I'm perceptive.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So that basically, TikTok is an interaction platform. It's a creation platform, and the sort of exchanges and the sort of trends between different people is a language, as Avery from Girlpool said so clearly. Once you really understand this language and this dialogue, you start to really come into unlock a whole new way of creating that is not just embraced by these musicians we have on the stage, but by tier 1 recognizable celebrity artists now. And that basis of creativity really is a new format. It's been very, very exciting to sort of see that, watching the musicians that can really follow that language and follow those trends and follow the dialogue that is TikTok is a really key to success on the platform.
Yeah, I want to get back to those trends later, but you mentioned formats, and it's something that's really unique about TikTok is in the earlier days, they were seconds-long videos. Now I think you can post something like 10 minutes or whatnot, but in those very early days, you had to constrain yourself to that time limit. So for you, Blue and April, I mean, how did that change the way that you approached sharing your content on TikTok when you knew you had 20 seconds, 60 seconds to get someone's attention?
I think you can be like especially creative in those limitations, and like if it's a shorter form video, you're kind of like trying to show all you can do in one video. So that's kind of how I took it, and I would like, put in all my little skills and tricks and stuff into one video.
You want to see some examples maybe? It would be a great time.
Yeah. Let's play. Run it back. Is it okay to go out of order?
Yeah. Oh.
Let's just, play the first one. Run it.
I call it Lola. She feel like the ocean, like to drink and smoke some Doja. And I feel like smoking, plus she good at drumming chorus. I feel like I'm chosen, but she ain't the only one. No. Got the chick up.
So I mean,
That was a
don't have to do that, yeah.
Baby girl, I'm the man from the big B, hey. Won't you come play round my way? And listen to what I gotta say. Simple thing. Don't you know I am the man? Rock so hip, ginger, hey. Have people shaking my hand. Baby girl, better known as a.
Okay, thanks guys, thanks. In those examples, I think, especially with TikTok, it's based around these viral sounds, right? It's based around these top 10 trending sounds, which is, very particular to this app. And that's where you can get really creative with it. Like the first video was, you know, a song that was like going crazy on the app at that time, and I was like, okay, why don't I just like play what I would play if this was my song, or if I was in the studio and asked to like play bass on this song. So that's kind of where I got like my inspiration from, was just picking these like viral sounds and like adding what I would want to play on them. So I think that's like very particular to TikTok. I forgot, what was the question?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just curious, Cable, did you
Yeah.
have a similar approach? Like when you're thinking of creating duets or other songs on TikTok, are you looking at some of the popular clips that are going around to determine, hey, this is something I want to put an April spin on?
Yeah, for me, I love to give advice to other creators and musicians. And so people can get so caught up in those things, right? Like my video's too long, my video's too short, or like no one's playing bass on TikTok, like that's corny, that's not gonna fit in. So I think for me, it's about finding the intersection. Like I've played some like classic pop punk songs. Like one thing I love is like emos having a comeback or whatever, right? But I'm like, these kids don't really know, right? And so sometimes I have to play some of the tracks that aren't trending, right? But those then could be what's trending next. So I love playing like songs that are popping off and viral songs, but also I love creating my own things and sharing those and seeing how artists and creators use the sounds that I make. So it's totally cool to do the exact perfect trend and the length and the video, you know, everything right in that way. But I've actually had the most success when I've broken from that mold and done something that's my own, because I think that's where kind of the cutting edge of the platform is it's important to be on those trends and be part of that, but also to feel free to break free from it. And one of the benefits of this is it's way more fun. And we hear so much about creator burnout. Mental health is a topic I'm very, very passionate about. So making sure that as a creator and as a musician and as an activist, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I feel like I'm expressing my genuine truth and spreading messages that are what I believe in is what's gonna make my career sustainable. And I think what's gonna keep creators going long term is making sure we're balancing trends and those things with what we love. And sometimes what we love becomes a trend, like I think happened with Blue and I, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely, that balance can be tricky regardless of your musician or different other content creator. We hear about burnout all the time. So I guess when it comes to, again, balancing between creating music that's playing with the trends on TikTok and then transitioning in some of your own original music. I know both of you have original music, but perhaps you first went viral for duets or covers or other things that you've done. How has that been, like trying to get your followers or enticing new followers to come follow you to new music that you're doing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think, you know, my whole, you know, goal as an artist, and one of them is, you know, to bring the bass to the forefront of just like anything, but especially in my music, you know, the bass lines are always like forefront of the songs. And I think, you know, I was like posting all these TikTok videos, as you guys saw, it's like the bass is the main thing, obviously. And then I had a song come out called Figure It Out, where the bass line is, you know, pretty present, kind of like a hook in of itself. And I kind of added that into the mix of me posting like whatever I was posting at the time. And it just kind of fit, and it's, you know, it's me, it's my playing, it's my style, so it's like, it kind of all lined up pretty smoothly. And I think, you know, my followers who were interested in me for playing bass were like, oh, she has this song and the bass line is really cool. And then they were like sending me videos of them playing the bass line and learning it. And then I was like teaching them the song on TikTok, and it was like this whole like cool little transition of me playing other people's songs into like me showcasing what I would do on my own song, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, but it's, you know, it's always like an ongoing thing of bringing your fans into what you're doing, like you were saying, like bringing in your own taste and choosing your own songs that aren't going viral or whatever, you know, playing your own music is, yeah, just kind of like bringing fans to what you're doing. It's kind of the
I guess from the manager's point of view, Adam and Benito, like what kind of advice do you have for some of your clients or prospective clients when it comes to, again, that idea of a balance of, you know, building your following on social, but also staying true to who you are as an artist? Not that those are necessarily two different things.
I think for me, like what we tell artists all the time is like, there's such a, TikTok as itself is a resource. And if you look at TikTok, there's a million artists on there that are killing it out there. And I think for us, we're always like, look at what they're doing and make it your own. And that's something that we do all the time is like, there's so many great examples of artists that are like constantly going viral. They're doing their own thing. They're taking their own songs and they're really just driving traffic to it. So I think it's just like making TikTok your own thing, but also like looking at what other artists are doing. I think that's the best resource.
Yeah, and I think it's just like about like shooting your shot too, and like being like willing to like put up content and like when you're a new artist on TikTok, it's kind of like the most demoralizing thing ever, because you'd be like, hey, I just spent 5 hours on a video, and you put it up and it's like 3 likes. And then you'll be like, I just shot like a selfie video that took me 3 seconds and it's like 1 million views. And you're like, what's going on? I don't understand this, you know? And it takes a lot of time to like build that repetition and like just, you know, shoot your shot. And it's like everything, the thing about TikTok is like, you never know what's gonna go. And like, as long as you're being active and using the platform and like putting your best foot forward, like eventually something's gonna go. But it takes time and it's work, you know? But I do think like, at the end of the day, it's like, there's room for every kind of skill set and talent. And like TikTok is kind of about showcasing like, what is your talent? Like, what are you, you know, like, are you a good A&R? Like this dude over here, are you a good bassist? Like, are you a good artist? Like, can you draw really well? So it's like, tapping into your strengths as a person, and then just like, you know, showing that off and building community around that.
Yeah.
Really.
Although I do feel like that can be easier said than done.
Yeah.
From someone who's on the inside. Let's spill some secrets. No, I mean, there's a lot of content out there, and like you are competing not just against other musicians, but other artists, actors, dancers, etc. I mean, for a rising artist who is just getting their start on TikTok, what advice do you have for them when they're trying to battle this noise? And there's just so much content out there.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about consistency, but also like authenticity, right? Be yourself, be authentic, because I think in this day and age, scripted formats, you know, things that are very like run-of-the-mill, very obviously like, you know, influencer-based or like trend chasing, like we talked about earlier, those things can do well, certainly, but like ultimately, people want to know who you are. And I think what's really interesting is when you look at artists like even Lizzo, right? For as much time as she spends promoting her new singles or duetting celebrities that are doing the about damn time trend, she's also sharing food she hates or likes, and showing her travels and vlogging and stuff. Even like Megan Thee Stallion, for example, has these great vlogs where she's talking about her travel and days and kind of riffing on things. And I think that like bringing that amount of personality that shows what you are outside of just a musician shows that you're multidimensional. And it really helps create this greater bond between creator and fan that, you know, haven't really seen anything like that before.
Yeah. Is there anything specific to TikTok that artists can think about differently than when they're just posting across any other platform?
On TikTok specifically, I really think it has a lot to do. There's a lot to be said about the sound. You know, it is a sound-based app. It's the connectivity and the tissue that really puts so many things together. And I think that, you know, outside of just like looking at trends that are happening at the moment, you know, for musicians especially, it's very important to sort of, you know, be on, interact with other people that are on there, and, you know, riff off of what they're doing. You know, like Benito said, like the greatest source of inspiration can often be other musicians and peer sets that you either want to be like or build a career similar to.
Yeah, I feel like the duet feature is like one of the most fun things about the app, and like getting to share your music. It's like April, you're saying you like to interact with your fans and have them kind of come into the process. I'm sure that's kind of key. Not that you're so analytical about it, but I know content creators are thinking about what kind of videos they're putting out, when are they timing it, when are they spacing it. How often do you think about different types of formats that you're playing with when you're posting on TikTok, for example?
Yeah, for me, it's, as you said before, about striking that balance between the things that I'm passionate about and the things that I think will get me more space in the algorithm. Because I think one thing that we haven't said is that this access is impact, right? It's not just about getting plays or getting streams. It's about spreading the importance of bass, or in my case, like showing young black kids that they can do something that they thought was impossible. I remember when I was like, I don't know if I could ever even afford a Fender. Like one day I will be able to afford a Fender guitar, and now I'm here. Like that is what the platform is about for me, and so that's how I approach the really analytical stuff. I slot out. I have 3 columns. It's a music column, an activism column, and an influencer column, and I make sure to hit in all of those. And I have a management team for my social media that helps me with that, but at the same time, I have to push back against them a lot because they want me to do more influencer stuff. The beauty stuff is what they say, build a sustainable career. I don't necessarily agree. I think that being myself and speaking out, and maybe another thing that I did recently was my band also is an activist collective. We put out a guide with abortion resources and connections around sort of that, because that's a really important social issue to me that, again, connects to my music. Like, as a woman playing bass, like, this is a real issue and, like, a real day-to-day thing that people in my community face. And so balancing those things in a very deliberate way is key because it is so easy and attractive to get caught up and to be chasing the numbers and all of that. I've had to reground myself. There have been times where I was doing really well, posts were popping off, but I felt like so depressed. And I think all the creators in here know that feeling where your stuff's going viral, your numbers are amazing, but you're like, you feel awful because it's not you. You know, I felt that way certain times with certain types of content, certain songs I've done. And so I make sure then to throw in that, emo song when the top 40 song that I don't necessarily love is going off. And so that's a really key part of my work, and what keeps it sustainable is making sure to hit all of those different columns and being extremely deliberate, putting it on the calendar.
Yeah. Whew. Sounds busy. All right, I wanted to transition a little bit to the business side of things. I mean, I think it's undeniable that TikTok has changed the music industry. Evan, you're from a legacy guitar / bass / now ukulele company. From your perch here, I mean, how? I saw it on the website, but now, I mean, you've been in the business for a while. Fender's been in the business for a while. How has TikTok shaped the way that you sort of view the music industry, or how is it changing the way that you're thinking about marketing specifically?
Well, so I've been with Fender since 2015, and I think, when I first started, a lot of what the company was celebrating, we're sort of classic rock and famous artists. It typically would be sort of older white male artists who'd been on tour for 20 years, 5 platinum albums, and that was sort of the benchmark to sort of make it to the Mount Rushmore where Fender would then sort of get behind and market you. And I think, again, that was working exceptionally well for a period of time. I think a lot of what we've been focused on, though, is really investing in supporting, expanding the aperture to guitar and to musical expression. And so, I think one of the things that we absolutely believe in is, who you choose to elevate says a lot about what you stand for as a brand. So everything you're talking about, like the Linda Lindas, I don't think you would expect to see on the cover of or as part of a campaign for a product launch, but they're an incredible band who's had an incredible run, and just again, it's a small part of what we can do to try to amplify them. But I think, in as much as that's important, it's also about, I think for young players who are coming up, exactly what you just talked about, is with our social channels, investing in allowing the next generation to see and get a taste of artists that they can be inspired by, who look like them, who have similar backgrounds that they can be inspired by. And I think if we can do sort of our small part as the leading brand in the industry to help open up that aperture and to help support that and amplify that, that's what we're all about. At the end of the day, the sales are going to happen. I think if we are getting more players out there, helping create more artists, build more creators, that's the stuff that moves culture. That's the stuff that moves perception, and that's what's going to create the next wave of art. And so, like for us, even going into TikTok last year in September, I don't think we even anticipated we'd be already at 1.5 million followers as quickly as we have. Thank you, Blue, for the great jump start. Thank you, April, for the continued support. But I think it's just a testament to how much creativity and excitement is out there, and so that's one of the ways that we're leaning in.
Yeah, it's great to see how TikTok can be used as a discoverability tool, like elevating artists that may not have a traditional background in music or connections in the industry, giving them a chance to sort of be seen and discovered. And to that point, I guess, Benito and Adam, as managers, how has TikTok changed the way that you look for new clients or sort of that research process in finding the next up-and-coming artist?
Well, just one thing to that point, too. It's been really cool to see, like, with Blue's community, like, so many young girls and like young people have hit her up and been like, hey, what bass are you playing? What bass should I get? What should I pick up? And like, I feel like that's so cool for like young kids to be inspired to pick up an instrument, because I feel like there's a big wave of like everyone's playing video games or they're producing on their laptop and like, like real instruments. Like it's really cool to see that like kind of getting another like, being like front and center with and inspiring like all these young people, I think that's like a really cool thing that you've dealt with a lot.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I still remember in the days of COVID, we did like a Zoom party, and it sold out at 1,000 people in the thing, and it was crazy to see that literally all the people in the Zoom were bassists, and they were just wanting to learn from Blue.
They like had their basses.
Yeah, and that was the first time it. And that was the first time it hit me where I was like, whoa, like we're doing something, you're literally influencing people, and it's an amazing thing.
And just the community building and even other musicians I've been able to meet through the app. I mean, like we met through the internet and just yeah, creating that community, and even if you're like a beginner posting, like having other people see that beginners are struggling through the same things that they're struggling through is really empowering, I think. And also for me as an artist, being able to like communicate with my fans directly if they have any questions about the instrument or any like just the educational side of it is really important. And I know like Fender Play is such a big thing. Just like going off of that, I think that's so key is like learning how to like do things. From literally asking your favorite artist, how did you do this? How did you make the song?
Having that direct access.
Yeah, that direct
is
access
really
is
nice.
like incredible, and the specificity too of like the questions people can have. It's crazy. I know I'm like going off, but
I kind of went off topic, but like I was just kind of inspired by that.
No, I think that speaks to the power of the 15-second video, back to your point about how short videos are now. That's able to reel people in so that then they want to download the Fender Play app. And I read that in the app you're actually seeing through the data that the audience is younger. They are more diverse, right? And I started a Patreon for a similar reason for people. I always recommend the Fender Play app, but if you want a person, like I'm here. And all of those things connect really well together, and they start with, some of my videos are 7 seconds, you know? And I think that's so powerful, and why TikTok is a really incredible platform, because it can jump out to these other things that can really create long-term change in the industry and in music.
Well, and I'll just, to piggyback on that, I mean, I think something like 60% of all beginners are going to TikTok as the first place to learn about
That's cool.
music and about guitar. And so, you know, we've seen that response in the Fender Play product, but even more fun for us is to watch the videos that both of you will post, and then you'll see the comments about what guitar you play, but also like, how do I do that?
yeah, exactly.
And that's, I think, some of the most interesting stuff, because that's really where, you know, anybody who's beginning is also spending a ton of time.
Yeah. So I guess for the musicians who are not necessarily beginners, I wanted to circle back to my question for the managers,
sorry.
not to get into the nitty-gritty, but I mean, seriously, like on a day-to-day basis, how often are you going into TikTok? I mean, you're not searching like new artists, but you know, what are you looking for?
Literally every day I'm citing stuff. I'm like, guys, I'm on TikTok nonstop. I'm always finding new artists, and there's so many incredible artists in all different genres. And at the end of the day, we're looking for people that are just able to market themselves, but they also create amazing music. And that's not easy to find. I'm not going to say that's like the easiest thing, but like, I think it's become harder for artists nowadays to like really cut through the noise, because they have to be able to be a personality. They have to be able to do, you know, they have to be able to create a viral moment, which is a ton of pressure, you know. And they need to be able to do all that stuff as well as tour, do brand deals, everything. And it's like, it's really hard. There's only a specific number of people that can do it, Blue being one of them, and you as well, obviously. It is nonstop as you get your schedule. Like, I mean, with Blue, like we really have to like segment our time when we talk to Blue, because she's so busy all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like hard to keep up with like, oh, you're touring, you're making music, like, and then you have to think about like content? What? Like, you know, it's like, and I think it's tough for any artist, because it's like, it almost becomes a thing where it's like, it's like weird to say, but it's like you're almost like you have to be like a freaking like content studio at some point. You know, it's like you're making content, you're putting it out there, and like that's what engages the community. You know, and it's a lot of work, and it's like a lot to, you know, think about on top of just like making great music and touring and doing everything else. I mean, obviously, like Benito said, it's important. Like we definitely look for that for like new talent and things like that. I think like it doesn't come easy for everyone. So like if it does come like naturally for people, like that's great. Or just like people like sometimes we'll just look and see if like someone's like trying, you know, at least, you know, kind of like what I said in the beginning, where it's like if you're shooting your shot, it's like someone's actually like putting their foot forward and like trying and like putting effort in, and like no one's like a pro at it, you know, like we were looking through like all blues videos for this thing, and like she was like, oh my god guys, some of the stuff I posted back then, like, you know, like she's like, I posted some cringe stuff back then, and we're like,
But you have to, that's the whole thing, right? That's why I love that you said you go for people who are smaller but still do it, because that's so key, because eventually you will hit.
Yeah, it's like as long as they're like putting effort towards it, you know, like, hey, like this is important, I'm gonna try, like I think that's important, because some artists are just like, no, like that's lame, whatever, and it's like, okay, and then, you know, they'll say it's lame, and then you'll see them in a month, and they're trying to post a TikTok. So it's like, whatever, you know? It's like either you're going to get on it now, or you're going to get on it later, so like, whatever.
When Stevie Nicks got on TikTok, that's when I knew it was
Beyonce's on now.
game
Like,
over. I was like,
Beyonce's
okay,
on, so.
this is it. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess, again, on the business side of things, I feel like social media in general, TikTok included, but across the board, it's changed how you define success for artists and content creators and whatnot. And how has that sort of impacted your conversations with record labels? Because I think they still stand as like the most traditional gatekeepers in the music industry. How much does social media now impact whether or not a client gets a deal?
I mean, like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. You go.
It's impacted everything. It's there's positives and negatives to it. I mean, an artist that can drive their own traffic nowadays is the most valuable thing ever. You know, someone that can like constantly drive traffic to a song, to a demo. You know, that's like the most important thing nowadays, I think, for record labels. And that's something that we're always looking for. We own a record label as well, and you know, we always see there's artists that they're driving traffic. You can see it in the back end. You know, Hunter on our team, he's constantly looking at data all the time, and he's telling us like, guys, this is working, this is not working. So I think it's changed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think driving traffic's key, but I did want to say, like, also not to get bogged down with, like, the data sometimes. Like, I feel like if you have to kind of, like, get in that flow and just put out stuff, and it's like, sometimes, like I was saying earlier, it's like sometimes your video is going to get 20,000 views, sometimes it's going to get 1 million views. Like, sometimes your IG post is going to get 6K likes, and then it's going to get 10K likes, or 25K. You know, it's like, I think that, like, for a mental health, like, perspective, it's like, in the grand scheme of things, what your individual post is getting like-wise, like, every day, like, doesn't matter that much. But it's like, as long as you're putting, like I said, just keep saying, like, put your best foot forward, like, things are going to connect and go viral, and then you're going to have those big moments that you can capitalize on. So.
Yeah. I think that's interesting when we think about creating those viral moments, because there can be a positive and negative side to that. I mean, it feels like everyone now, when they're having a major album release, there's some sort of TikTok integration. Like, Beyonce is now on TikTok. Like, you can't ignore that. I'm assuming now the tables have turned in the sense that record labels are now coming to TikTok to coordinate what those rollouts are like. What are you hearing in terms of feedback from them? What are they looking for from TikTok?
I think, you know, so in the short time that we've been here as a music team, we have done a lot to work with labels and artists and their management teams on rollout strategies and how to really approach the platform. You know, we can understand that the platform can be intimidating. And I think what's really interesting is that a lot of these artists that are paving the way, like these two on the stage, are really setting the precedent that a lot of the established artists are now seeing. It's advice on how to do rollouts. It's also just like how to tease up and, you know, as Benito was saying, really drive traffic around those songs. It's one thing just to post and expect for someone to show up. It doesn't quite work that way. A large part of the process of being on TikTok is really being on TikTok, learning that language and understanding what that community really wants and learning how to interact with that community. And the artists that do that the best are the most successful. So a big thing that we do as a team is really like help work with labels and their teams on that education process.
Yeah, for that education process, a couple months ago, I think there was a conversation about record labels like not wanting to release singles unless they could create some sort of viral moment about it. I know musicians like Halsey have spoken out about it, Charlie XCX, etc. People were talking about it, and I wonder, can you debunk a myth? Like, can you manufacture a viral moment on TikTok like that to coincide with the single release?
It's very hard, and you know, there is no pressure from us to like post on TikTok. You know, the demand from that comes from the fans and the audiences on the platform that really want that kind of direct artist interaction. And again, like, you know, we work very closely with labels and their teams because we do understand that approaching TikTok can be hard and be challenging. But you know, I think there's a lot of things that can go into manufacturing a moment, right?
Like
I think, again, community interaction is huge, right? So let's talk about, you know, obviously duetting and interacting with people is a big deal, but like open verse was a huge deal. Hashtag open verse, I think, really went mainstream when Zadie Jean, Stacey Ryan, Zy1K really made this hashtag that a lot of how, you know, musicians like yourself interact with one another go to the mainstream. And now there's artists like Russ that are releasing singles from these hashtags. And he has a single out with Caitlyn that just went gold. Logic has a song out that he's done an open verse with. So you really do see these established artists getting success on the Billboard charts, using some of the tips and tricks and techniques that a lot of like musicians do by interacting with one another on the platform.
Okay, so it's interaction.
Interaction. Previewing your songs is another really big one, right? Driving up hype around that release can be a really big part of it. The Jack Harlow moment, right? That snippet from that Flipped Fergie verse went huge, right? And the song went straight to #1 the following week. That's another really big part of the playbook we see. And I think also just like being multidimensional. We've talked about that already, but if you're coming on there being overly promo, check out my song, duet my song. If you are sharing things around your song and using that sound ID as the sort of backing track to your videos, that's another really great way to inspire people of like what context to listen to your song, when to use it, how to enjoy it.
Yeah. And I guess on the management side, when you are having any sort of communication with a record label ahead of a release, do you have to sort of temper expectations, or what do you tell the folks on the other end who may not understand TikTok, for example, as well, what they can reasonably expect from your client?
I think for me, like when we talk to our label, Capitol Records, we're not signing with anyone because of a TikTok thing. We're signing because, for Blue, she's an incredible artist. That it's not about TikTok. It's just about her. She is incredible. She rips the bass. She's an amazing vocalist. If you ever seen a performance of her, she's amazing. So like, it's not about that. You set the expectation from the beginning. This is not a TikTok thing. This is a,
artist project that's developmental, that's going to grow, and if you're going to get wins, it's a bonus, right?
Yes. It's like it adds on top. It's not all about the big viral moment. It's about the story. It's about the continuation.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing with Blue is it's been about her as an artist and growing her as an artist, and there's been a lot of artists that have had a big TikTok moment and they get that big TikTok song. Where are they at now? I don't know. There's probably 20 of them we can talk about right now that have that big song that goes off, but there's no career after that, right? The song gets bigger than the artist, and the artist is kind of relevant at that point, and then they're struggling to follow up and whatever. So I think that's kind of a big focus too, is focusing on the artist, right? And obviously utilizing TikTok to grow and get exposure around music and create that viral moment. But at the end of the day, it's all about consistent building, and then you get those big wins and it elevates everything and speeds it up. But you still need that foundation under you to kind of stand on,
Yeah, no one wants to be a one-hit wonder, but
Right.
sometimes it happens.
I think the best example is Blue did her first ever headline tour last year. We sold out the whole thing 3 months in advance. We just did our first Europe tour, sold out the whole thing. And it's we were super careful with it because you have no idea how scared we were. Is this real? Is this not? We always knew it was real, but to see people.
I was freaked.
She was.
I was like, no one's coming.
She was so stressed. Literally, the show was sold out 3 months in advance. She's like, is anyone going to come? I'm like, yes, people are going to come, Blue. They're going to come see you.
Yeah, they came. They came, guys. They came. If anyone's wondering. But that's what's scary about TikTok as an artist when you're seeing, just the numbers. Having that actual real fan interaction in real life is one of the most important things. And I think when I'm thinking about making content, I really just think about inspiration and how to connect with those fans. I'm not really thinking about how to make a viral moment. Because I think when you're trying really hard to make something viral, that just doesn't sound very fun to me. I don't know. It just doesn't. I think for me, and especially working, I'm signed to a label now. I think of it more as a collaboration with them, and they're they have people at the label that are on TikTok all the time, figuring out what's what people are interacting with, and I think that's helpful information for me. It's when I'm going into sharing things. So I think it's more collaborate. This is just from my personal experience, more of a collaboration with them on how they can help me explore the app in new ways that I haven't explored yet.
Yeah. Now, because this is a Fender event, I feel like we need to focus a little bit on the guitars and the basses and the ukuleles at the heart of it. So one of the big communities on TikTok is Guitar Talk. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, can you explain it briefly?
Sure. So, music is a lot of things on the TikTok platform, but instruments specifically is a major part of how it works. And out of all the different instrument-based hashtags on the platform where people gather together to interact and play, guitar is the biggest. Hashtag guitar is bigger than hashtag piano, hashtag singing, hashtag drum. So there's a massive community behind that. And really it's just musicians and songwriters alike sharing, they're playing either riffs or they are interacting with one another, or they're giving instructional videos. Very educational, very wholesome. Under Guitar Talk.
Do you have any fun stats to share? Like how many times has the hashtag been used? What are some cool trends in Guitar Talk?
Some cool trends at Guitar Talk. Well, so Guitar Talk is the biggest, right? Out of like all the different instrument-based hashtags. But I think ultimately, like some of the really interesting things we see is just how it gives an entry point for some of these very established musicians that we all recognize. I think just last week, what is it? The finale of Stranger Things sent Master of Puppets up the charts. And, there's James Hetfield on TikTok playing that iconic riff. And I think that, like, that kind of moment happening under Guitar Talk is, like, incredible.
Yeah. I think I came across a video of, like, this guy who used to be in a band in his heyday, and he was like, oh, let me bring out the guitar, try this riff again. It was so cute.
Yep.
So, for Fender, the brand, at what point, I guess, Evan, did you come across Guitar Talk and realize, hey, this is something that we really need to get into?
Well, I would say we were probably a little late to the party relative to when it started. I think one of the things that we've been steadily working on since I've been here in the last 7 years, and I give the artist team that we work with a lot of credit, is really just, again, opening our eyes to what is an artist and being open to what that looks like, where that's coming from, where they start. And I think we saw so much happening at an early stage. We just didn't want to sort of step into it sort of in a half-step way. We needed to come into it the right way, which is where I think partnering up with artists right up in the beginning was so important to us because it's immediate authenticity and validation, credibility. And so I think now that we're there, we're seeing and learning so much. And to the point, I mean, it's everything from performances to lessons in learning to all sorts of creative angles and multiple topics. I think, you look at a program like Fender Next for us, which is something we started 4 years ago, and we launched that as an initiative. Basically, for anybody who's ever, checked out Double XL's freshman class, back in the day, like when that started, that was a big deal, at least for me anyway. And I think as we thought about, okay, what would be the guitar version of that? How do we provide a platform? We felt like that would be a great start. And so it's kind of started as a B2B strategy where, first working with the artists, with labels, publishers to try to create something. But we now really think it can be a much bigger platform. And we think that's just one of many things that we can do, where if we commit to it annually, then, it's not just putting gear, it's also putting marketing and support, including artists in campaigns. But I think equally, it's also, helped us become a little more humble too, in terms of the creativity. I mean, when I first started, if I go back 7 years ago, we sort of had two things when it came to creativity. One was we wanted to make work that was as thoughtful as the products that we make. And you look at a bass or a guitar, and it's a work of art, so it had to be great. But we also wanted to make concepts and put campaigns and creative out there that artists wanted to be a part of, because we felt like that would be the surest way to drive more earned media. I think that is now changed to what do artists want to do, and what do artists want to make. And I think we're increasingly getting comfortable turning the creative control over. And I think when you see what happens on TikTok in particular, you talk about the authenticity, there's no way to predict, but I think for us, if we can help validate an artist's voice or a creator's voice, that's actually as important as getting the total number of views, because at the end of the day, it all adds up to the guitar and bass as being true, authentic tools of expression. And I have to believe some of that is why the guitar has been adopted by so many creators and artists out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously many ways to approach advertising, and on TikTok, I know the platform is experimenting with other ad integrations now. I guess Fender could have very easily done you swipe up and it's like, hey, here's me and my Fender guitar, but I mean, that may not be as successful as hearing from Blue or April, just seeing them play it. So you kind of touched on this, but how intentional were you in making sure that the advertising with creators was just through them playing versus them demoing an instrument, for example?
Very. I think ultimately, and it's funny, I think back to one of the first signature launches that I was a part of when I joined Fender, was a Flea signature bass launch. And it was a pink shell bass, for anybody who remembers. The two of you remember that one, that's awesome. And I've always been a Chili Peppers fan, so this was an amazing, we thought, great, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna create a great campaign, we're gonna shoot it with you and with his daughter. And Flea's response was, yeah, no, I got it. And no, let's have the pre-production meetings. And so we got a couple meetings in, and then he let us know that they were in Malibu shooting the spot. And so we were all super nervous because we sort of cut this check, and it was the first time doing it. And what came back was better than anything we could have scripted. Like, who knew, that he was a beekeeper? Who knew that he would, dance on the house and play the bass with the way he did? But the authenticity that he exuded in that, I think we never could have accomplished if we had tried to script it.
Yeah.
So I think, again, back to the idea of, how prescriptive should we be? Honestly, I think we think about it as we make our art so that creators and artists can make theirs.
Yeah.
And, what we hope to be is an amplifier and an accelerator of the best versions of that, or the most authentic versions of that, or the most important versions of that. And we've never looked at it as Fender's job to decide what is and is not good enough. We just look at it as it's all part of creative expression, and we want to provide as much of a platform for that, especially for younger generations of artists and creators who are coming up and either falling in love or finding their voice or reaching new audiences.
Yeah, and from the creator perspective, I'm sure having that say or having that kind of collaboration with a brand is pretty key in choosing whether or not you want to take the ad deal. Now that you both have had lots of experience with this, if there are any red flags you may want to warn others about when doing an ad deal with the company, like what you might want to look out for.
There's something that actually connects to all of this. From what I understand, there's about 10 male bass players to every 1 female bass player. Don't love the binary, but that's the data I have. And so I love what you said about Fender creating a new version or an expanded version of what a bass player looks like. Because in the Guitar Talk space, I've been able to find folks like Blue and folks who look even more like me than Blue, who are doing what I'm doing, playing bass, playing shows, playing sessions at an even higher level than me. I'm close with like Beyonce's bass player now and things like that because of that community. And so when it comes to brands and red flags, like I want brands that think how Fender thinks and who want me to tell my authentic story, how I tell it, and also who have other people who have backgrounds like mine, who look like me, or from communities like mine on that platform already, so that I know folks are interested in sharing the message that I'm interested in. And a fun fact is my video that I posted on Fender's TikTok did better than anything I ever posted to my own TikTok. And I think it's because the algorithms, one of the great things about them is reaching your specific audience, but it can be challenging to create a broader audience. And if your audience is very niche, it can be sort of difficult. And there's ways to do it. But being posted by a brand like Fender that has an ethos that's so aligned with what I'm doing is how I can then reach so many more people, and again, bring the conversation that may be happening on my more niche community to a broader audience. And so if I can find a brand that's aligned with that, like that's the way to go. And red flags are when I'm feeling tokenized, when I'm not feeling valued for who I am beyond my numbers, or even beyond my ability to play bass. I want folks who are interested in the holistic story that I bring, because that's what my community's interested in, and that's what's going to change these demographics and move things forward.
Yeah. That's similar for you, Blue?
Yeah, similar. I think, we did the Player Plus campaign together, which was like the sickest thing ever. I was like so hyped to do it. And, like Jason, like we've known, Fender like hit me up when I think I was like 16 or 17. Wow. It was like first time I like ever got a bass from Fender, and I was like freaking out. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. It's such an iconic company. And you guys really have just like lived up to my expectations of it. To work together. It's been so awesome. And yeah, we did the campaign together, and you guys were like so nice and just like giving me so much freedom to really tell my story. And they're a brand that's not like, tell us this bass is good. Right. Like say to the camera, this bass is amazing. Like I would, because I'm not gonna do that unless I actually believe it. Mm-hmm. And it's more about telling your story as an artist as opposed to why is this instrument so good. It's more like, why are you playing this instrument and how do you play it, and just getting more into the nitty gritty of that, which I think is really special about.
Totally.
And that message is always going to be more powerful in Blue and April's voice than it is going to be in ours. And I think the Player Plus campaign was just to reinforce that, a great example about, you asked about advertising and all of that. I mean, some of that was scripted, but it really was just the framework. The rest was, what does Blue think about it? And
they're so open to feedback. Like me and Jason have conversations all the time, and I was like, I really love the active preamp, and then I was like, what came out in the next one, and just having that open communication with the brand is really cool for just an ongoing relationship, and we're working on some more.
And also because your followings have trust in you guys as creators.
And especially with TikTok, just the interactive element of it. Your fans trust you for what you're playing, and when people are like, what what kind of bass should I buy? Like, I know what I'm gonna say, and they're gonna be like, yeah, Blue plays that, I'm gonna play that, because we have that relationship through TikTok. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna open up to questions in a second, so I'm gonna end with one final, hopefully fun question for you all. What is your personal favorite trend from Guitar Talk? William, you can go first.
Oh man, I love shred talk. Hashtag shred talk. So this is sometimes it's a little more heavy metal based, but this is people just rocking out to very ordinary everyday scenarios. I would say, shredding over those scenarios.
I love that. That's really good. I love when people shred to like you ever see that like water spraying thing and people like shred to that vibe. Yeah. That one I love that stuff because I think it's like recontextualizing the instrument. Another one that I love is there's this guy who he's like I'm gonna play my guitar through an orange and then then he plays it and it sounds like an orange and they're all fake, like obviously, but it's so cool to see what this guy thinks an orange sounds like, and when you're watching them they're so short, you're like, oh my god, he really played that through an orange, and it's pretty fun.
I haven't seen them.
Yeah, I'll send them to you. They're fun.
I like the ones that are like these are the riffs you should play at Guitar Center, and some of them are like ironic and like hilarious, and some of them are like actually really cool. So I like the Guitar Center talk. That's where I'm at. All those niche ones.
What about that like funny guy that just like puts his head over like the top of?
Oh, that's
he puts like his face. He has this long red hair, and he just like puts his head over the top of stuff, and he like did one of the blue ones where she was like shredding, and he just like had his head over it. And
it was like who did it better? Yeah, it was good.
I personally just love seeing new tracks come together. There's been a ton of examples of like really cool tracks coming together with like a really cool producer, a guitarist, like a vocalist. So that's my favorite moment on TikTok is when like people just come together and make awesome songs together. That's my favorite part about Guitar Talk, and I guess it goes to more like duet talk and everything, but that's my favorite.
Yeah,
I love watching those combinations. I think just the proliferation and explosion of how guitar is being used and bass is being used, I think honestly, it's awesome. So, great.
All right, thank you guys so much. Now we want to open up to questions from the audience. Anyone have a question for our lovely panelists? Yeah, so we have a mic, I think.
Thank you so much. All right. I say this as a guitarist, so that's where this question is coming from. There seems to be a general stigma among Gen Z and Gen Alpha people that guitar-based music is kind of dated and lame a little bit. So I don't know if you think that it's real, or if so, how you at Fender or as influencers try to counteract that kind of feeling or notion at all.
Yeah. The question was, there might be this kind of perception that guitar-based music by Gen Z and Gen Alpha might be kind of traditional and dated. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think the guitar. If you were gonna design the ultimate user interface, you probably wouldn't put a guitar together. It's maybe not the simplest interface to pick up and play, but I think some of what we're seeing that has us so excited is if you look at the number of bands that are using guitars and basses now to create, and I'll pick one of my favorite most recent examples, Wet Leg. I love it. It's a band out of Scotland, young, female-fronted, and they're part of the Fender Next program too. Look at how fast they've kind of come up. I think the Linda Lindas right here are another great example, all guitar-driven. I think as you kind of get into looking at how guitar is used, I think the traditional ways of using guitar, which might be a bit more sort of classic rock, lead solo in the front and everything having to be built around that might be a little bit of a different, I think there's a reaction to that versus using the guitar. It can be a soundscape tool, it can be a backing tool, it can have so much more texture to it. That to me, I think is a good indication that it's alive and well. And in everything that we're seeing, we're actually seeing the age of the buyers who are coming into guitar for the first time getting even younger, getting more diverse, more female. So I think at least everything we're seeing is it's being widely adopted. I think the pushback is probably when, honestly, you look at some of the older artists and sort of put what you can do up against maybe how it used to be played.
Even like if you look at like Mood or like big songs like that, like a lot of hip hop stuff, a lot of like the Juice WRLD, like you know, Kid Laroi, like a lot of those songs are very like guitar focused too. Like now there's like guitar players that are just like doing loops, and like those are part of like the biggest hits too. So I feel like there is some front and center stuff there, but yeah. Any other?
Yeah, and I think it's about changing the perception. There's 10 dude bass players to every one woman bass player. Yeah, it's gonna seem outdated because it is, and we have to change things, and like that's what we're doing now, and we can all do better, and we have to. Because yeah, like it doesn't feel good to walk into some of these spaces. It feels outdated, it feels messed up, and then I leave. I don't work with those people again.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember when I first started, you know, the woman who heads up our retail marketing function at Fender, she comes from the fashion industry. She's been with us for 7 years, and before she started, I said, you know, go do some secret shopping and tell me what you can, tell me what happens. And I kind of was a little worried about what was going to come back, but retailers will not be named. She came back and she said, she only got really asked 2 questions. Are you here for your husband or are you here for your kids? And, you know, we, I think as Fender sort of realized that there's and we've got the data to show it too, that there's a real barrier to entry that was probably inadvertently put in place years ago. And so a lot of what we've been focused on is really tearing all of that down and removing those barriers. And I think if you look at our channels now, you'll see they're, you know, evenly split in every possible dimension. You know, we make it a point when we have new campaigns. You know, we try to feature, you know, multiple genders, multiple genres, everything that we can do to provide balance. And I think make the point that the face of guitar is as diverse as ever. And we work with the dealers now and the retailers who are out there to really change that. And what's happened in the last 5 years is they're now saying, okay, things have changed. There's a much bigger shift in terms of who's walking in the door, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So to that point, you know, the fact that you're feeling what you're feeling and seeing what you're seeing about who's actually following, I couldn't be more excited, because I think ultimately that's the goal, is to open it up as much as we can.
Yeah. Do you think also the point maybe that the music itself may be perceived as like traditional or old-fashioned? Maybe if you think of like a rock star, you think of that kind of old 70s, 80s star or something like that. Now that you're creating new music, like what kind of stuff influences you, and how do you feel like your music is kind of part of this new generation of guitarists and bassists making stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with like funk music was like my thing. So like the bass playing in that I always channel from my songs and my stuff. And I think, I mean, there's always like ebbs and flows, there's always trends, there's always guitars can come in and out, bass come in and out, but I think just like it's always gonna be, like it's just these core instruments are just never gonna go away. I just don't think so ever. And I think there's a lot of songs right now that are super popular that are guitar, like the Steve Lacy song just went like #1 viral charts, and he's a guitar player, and I think, but it's also like inspiring. I mean, with my music, I'm trying to like, you know, make bass more out there too, and not seem outdated and seem cool and all those things. So I think it's, yeah, just about the few players that are trying to make those waves, I guess.
I'm a classical musician, and if you want to talk about outdated, people say classical music is outdated.
That's cool.
So,
and there's songs that are, it's just about doing it in your own way, and if you're passionate about it, then it's not, you know, there's going to be people that are passionate about it too. It's, you know, you're always going to find your people no matter what. So.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple more questions. Did you have a question? No. Oh, I think someone over here.
I guess I'm curious, for Fender as a company, how much of your product design going forward is focused on equipment that helps people use TikTok better? Like I see some of these amps have USB outputs, kind of take some of the guesswork out of recording, versus I'm one of those people with a deluxe reverb tube amp, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all about like the old school vintage vibe. But how do you balance that? How do you keep, like, I don't know, I'm a millennial, but like, how do you keep the people who like the old school stuff, who, I don't know, are still interested in the analog way of doing things, and the people who are trying to, you know, of course, go viral on TikTok?
Yeah. So the question's kind of on the equipment side of how Fender's thinking of bridging the gap between traditional players and newer players.
Well, I can tell you on the product side, I'd be curious to get from an artist perspective how they feel about it. But, you know, I'd say we try to balance both. So if you look at our product lines, you know, we've got guitars that lean more modern and more technical, and they range from something like an ultra level guitar, which for us is a sort of $2,000, you know, all the bells and whistles type guitar, down to a different series. I think on the amplifier side, one of the things we've been investing in is digital amps. And one of the most interesting series is something we call the Tone Master, which has essentially all the look and feel of what you would expect from a traditional tube amp. And if I showed it to you, you would look at it and say, oh, that's one of those traditional tube amps. Then you played it, you'd think it sounds like one. We know this because we've had artists do this, and then ask you to pick it up, and it weighs about half as much.
That's crazy.
And it can DI straight into your DAW or your recording system. It sounds incredible. So I mean, some of it is on that side where we need to embrace kind of where the artist is going. And for a lot of artists who are getting started, like their laptop and their guitar or bass, and maybe one or two interfaces is what they're dealing with, and that's very different than a wall of amps and a wall of pedals and everything else before. There's still artists out there, though, who crave that side of it, too. And so we're actually also innovating against what was and finding new ways to kind of improve on some of the guitars that were out there before. We've got a series, for example, called the Vintera series, which is a partner to the Player Plus. Player Plus is more modern, Vintera is more traditional. And again, when you get into the world of guitar, it gets very nuanced around tone and feel and everything, which it sounds like you're attuned to. So I think ultimately there's the tools, and then there's what the artists do with the tools. And I think there's still plenty of opportunity for us to continue to innovate in that space, especially when you think about digital effects, where that can go, how that can be leveraged, and how we can actually build an ecosystem around that experience where, case in point, we actually, not to make too much of a pitch, but in December of last year, we acquired a company, PreSonus, who makes a DAW called Studio One, and that's essentially for recording and publishing music. So we're investing in trying to figure out how to also expand the tools that we give artists so that it can make it that much easier for them to create and share their music, because that is where a lot of it's already been going for some time.
All right. Any more questions? Yes. I think we have a mic coming.
For April and Blue, do you ever get tired of promoting your music? Do you ever have complicated emotions around that or creator burnout, and what do you do about it?
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
I've talked about mental health on my platform. Yeah, the answer is yes, obviously.
Yes.
The answer is yes. Mental health is super important to me. I talk a lot about my challenges with depression and anxiety, and that's actually something that I used to bring people in, and especially as I've been playing music more and people understand the pressure I'm under, those conversations are hitting even harder. So honestly, that's one of the ways, because then it's all out in the open and we all talk, and I don't get those, why haven't you posted? Because people know why I haven't posted. I'm taking care of me. And I was preparing for this panel, I haven't posted in 4 days. And my last post is doing really well. I haven't posted Instagram in a couple days, and I feel good, And this panel's inspired me to maybe I'll be doing 2 a day for the next month, right? And so I let myself have those ebbs and flows. And as Blue knows all too well, there is definitely a release schedule component to it, and I think that's part of the creator process that's really similar to how it's always been in music. The week or a couple weeks before your release, you are grinding, making stuff. Back in the day, it used to be press releases, used to be photo shoots. Now it's TikToks, and I think it's kind of more fun making TikToks than kind of the old school stuff that that I used to do back in the day, and doing all the typing and all the words. Making these videos is so fun. But sometimes it's just brutal, and I think that's part of the experience as anybody at a high level in their career. It's just sometimes going to be rough, and then for me it's taking the breaks after that and recentering. But the mental health component is something that's really constant for me, both in my work itself and in the conversations around it.
Yeah, I mean, the same. I think these days I only do videos that I want to do, I'll just be I really like this song, I'm gonna do a video of me playing bass to this song, or I really like this sound, I'm gonna just lip sync. I'm just trying to do things that I enjoy doing, and I think that really helps. I also saw a TikTok recently that was some guy who was saying that your TikTok, it just really struck a chord with me, so I'm just sharing it because I feel I don't know. But this guy was your TikToks, they should either be inspirational, educational, or what was the third one?
Entertaining.
Or entertaining. And now I always have that in my head, and I feel it really, really helps me create content. So that's something I've been using. But yeah, I mean, promoting my own music is, I feel everyone, it's tough, but as long as you're having fun doing it, I think that makes it a lot easier.
Which I think goes for most things in music. Like that's how you
Yeah.
got good at bass is sitting there doing scales.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're really fun and sometimes they suck, and like it's part of the fun.
Yeah, and like same with like touring, you know, there's
Yeah,
parts that
totally.
are the worst and you're really exhausted and then you get to go play on stage for an hour and that's the best thing ever. So it's just like, just having that balance
Yeah.
of doing sometimes things that make you cringe and then sometimes, but then you get to rock out, so it's fine. So it's good.
But it's so worth it.
Yeah,
Everybody's
it's worth it, it's worth it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And especially I think for us, for me at least, and I feel like you'd say the same, the
Yeah.
DMs are worth way more than any
Exactly,
viral moment. And
exactly.
those like come kind of every day now, which is really,
Yeah,
really cool.
and then
that keeps me going.
Yeah, and then like the in-person
Yeah.
stuff, like for me, you know, the pandemic and just posting online and then finally getting to do my own shows and going to Europe and going across seas and people being like, I found you on TikTok and now I love your music and now I just got a bass and now I'm playing and those moments really are like, okay, I gotta keep posting on TikTok because look at all these people that I've inspired and now I'm making a connection with. So I think that's also something that I always keep in mind. Like I'm sure there's a million people that have been inspired for the videos that you posted.
Millions.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
you just don't even know until you gotta get those constant reminders.
All right, I think we might have time for one more question.
I've had this interesting, hello. Hi, I'm Chandler. I've had this interesting conversation with other songwriters as I am a songwriter on TikTok as well. And when you have these viral moments and your song isn't done.
Oh, this is tough.
And this is like when I first started, like same thing during the pandemic, started posting my song.
Yeah.
And it ended up spending the next day till 7 in the morning, like every day trying to finish it. And what that ends up doing is actually jeopardizes your work because you're more worried about just putting it out because people just want it rather than creating something like that takes a long time. So lately now on TikTok, like I refuse to post anything until it's completely done. So do you ever feel like, do you just post to post or do you wait like until your stuff is finished? That way when it's finally time to release a TikTok, like you know, like you, that work is your best and you're not like rushing it just to like get content out.
Yeah, I think it's the latter one. Like I want to finish everything and make any like something that I'm really proud of and that I really, really enjoy and then be like, this is it, this is what I'm putting out into the world and then show it to other people. Because I feel like if it's the other way around, it can really mess with you. It's like, what if you really don't like something and you just post it to post and then everyone's like, and then it becomes like your biggest song. I feel like that's just gonna, I don't know, I just feel like I wouldn't want to have that situation.
What do you do with those comments? They're like, why isn't this song out?
You're
It's
like,
been a year.
you better wait, yo. You'd be like, better wait, it's coming. It's gonna be dope. Yeah, it's gonna be the dopest thing
That
ever.
influence you, like even if something like does really, really well, but you don't feel like that piece of work means anything to you. So like, do you ever feel like you get like those comments? Like, how do you mental health? Also, you're like, why isn't this released? And then people are like, I've been waiting on this forever, but like you don't feel like that work connects to you anymore. Like, do you let that influence you with the type of work that you put out?
I mean, I think, like, but I think you gotta like push it away.
I really struggle with that because I post a lot
I struggle with that too, but.
I post a lot of like R&B kind of soul stuff, and I really like doing that in the 15-second format, but that's not really my preferred style of music. I like more poppy and stuff like that. And it's been something I've had to consciously turn down certain work and certain clients because I don't want to be a soul bass player. Like even if my song that took off was a soul song, that's not how I want to be. So sometimes it's hard choices, honestly.
Yeah.
And it seems like you have to make a lot of them. And we're in it together though. Please like DM me and like I will be like, don't get off, take a mental health break, forget them. Like I'm excited for the draft you're working on. Like I'm here for you. Like high key because it's stressful. It's really hard to say no.
But also if they're if they're commenting like, why isn't this out? When it comes out, they're probably still gonna listen. They're not gonna go away, and maybe that's like a few less listens down the line, but it's something you're really, really happy with. I think I would like take that any day. So it's really just like shutting out that stuff. It's really hard. Yeah, I feel.
Cool,
I feel you, girl.
It's hard.
I know. I feel you, girl.
I know it's hard. And you gotta delete that. You gotta delete the app off your phone some days, and it does. You gotta, or put the phone away. Like you just have to, or I do at least.
Yeah, or finish everything first. And
and then go back on it. Yeah. And another tip I'll throw out is like getting someone else to post for you. You don't have to be rich to like send your cousin your post to just post them for you. Like spend a day, make your little makeup videos, whatever, to keep it going. Like that's what I tell people personally. Just send your content to your cousin, get them to post it.
Your cousin.
It doesn't, but people think they have to have money to have a social media manager. You really don't have someone just to post your stuff for you. And it can be a huge save on your mental health. Yeah.
That's true.
Thank you.
You guys really test out music as much that you're less sure of on TikTok? Because I know some other musicians.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done it. I've definitely done it before, and I've tried it. But I think like I won't test out something that I'm not like 100% that I like it. But I did have one situation where like I liked something a lot and I posted and I got like one negative thing and it really messed with me. And then I was like, okay, now I'm just gonna like, you just have to like put your foot down and be like, this is dope, and like believe in what you're making, believe in yourself. And I think actually Tyler the Creator had a really good thing to say about this, where he was like, you gotta like own it. You gotta own your work, and you gotta be like, this is what I'm putting out there before you like let anyone else influence like the specific musical decisions you're making. It can be a fan being like, oh, I love this song, and then you're like, okay, maybe I should put this song out. But it's when it becomes to like the really nitty gritty like musical decisions, like, oh, this guitar tone sucks. Like, you know, that's up to you. That's not up to some person on the internet, you know.
At the same time, I think it can be really helpful for looking at other things, especially from a marketing perspective. Like one thing that I got a lot of feedback about with my music is the bass wasn't loud enough. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, and I think it's much more of a marketing thing than a musical thing to just crank up the bass, especially if I'm posting music online. And so I think there are ways to test it, but I'm completely with Blue. I am not putting my baby out there and letting people, it's just not my process. But there are a lot of things that I do test in other ways that make a lot of sense to me. Even things like certain techniques or ways of standing and outfits. There's so many different things that you can test there without putting your whole baby out there to be ripped to shreds.
Here's our people too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Pink Pantheress is an artist that I don't even think intended to even be an artist when she started putting out snippets.
Wow. Yeah.
And then those clips she started to put out got like millions and millions of hits.
Yeah.
We realized, oh damn, this could actually be a thing. Put together a project, millions of followers almost overnight.
That's crazy.
And now it's like a huge musical influence now. And so that's a really positive example of, so sometimes it can be a very motivating force.
Oh, I think it's great for a lot of artists.
Yeah, and it can give artists like really, it can give like the earlier developing artists like really big opportunities too, you know, like in the earlier stages, and then like you post something and it catches on, and it's like you can build a really good fan base, and like if you're going into DSPs with a big, you know, pre-save rate and like the song's trending and all of those things, like you can get it, you know, it can create a really awesome like opportunity for artists too.
Building that fan base directly allows for artists to build a lot more equity and show up to the table with a lot more, you know, much bigger hand in the game, and it's very, very positive effect in that regard.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect place to end. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna toss it back to Evan now. I'm feeling super inspired though.
Oh, I have to close it out with something
that's
really
your job.
inspirational? Oh boy. I wasn't prepared for this, but I'll go ahead and just say, look, I think like this conversation actually was really interesting to me because the community is like one of the most overused words in marketing, to your example. I think right after ecosystem and a few others. But you know, to your question about, you know, where music is and how different people are perceiving it, I mean, its power is real. And, you know, especially coming through the last couple of years, the power to connect and, you know, link people up, I think, is something that we think is incredibly powerful. And again, we're just learning ourselves about what's possible with TikTok. So I guess as part of this extended community, thanks everybody for being here, and appreciate everybody's attendance. And thank you so much to our guests, and especially to our two artists who joined us tonight to share your experience. And I think you've actually got music coming out, if I'm not mistaken. You've got an album coming out.
And my goal with my sister, we're releasing our next album in the next month, so please stay tuned. I'm really excited. We've been working on it for a long time. Thank you.
And you've just got a single out, and you're on tour. Right?
Yeah, check out my last song, guys. This promo is like so cringe. I just put out a song with Big Pig. It's called Crash Course. Go check it out. Announcing a tour soon, so come see me shred if you guys.
Yes.
And there you go.
Thank you.